In this video, I'm going to walk you guys through how to read the information on a page in the US Census. And what this is the result of someone physically walking through a neighborhood and knocking on people's doors and getting information about their lives. And this is really important, of course, for counting the number of citizens, for statistics showing what people are doing, where people are living, those sorts of things. And what we normally see in the census is kind of this broad data. These, numbers like, this many people live in Florida, this many people live in Georgia, in Brunswick. And what we really don't see until later is how detailed this census is, these census can be. And the reason why we don't see that is because much of the information released, the detailed person by person part of the census, isn't released until 72 years after that census is taken. And the reason why there's such a long time period between the information being gathered and then being released by the government to the public is because we want to protect people's privacy. And so 72 years is kind of a long enough period of time to where if you were in the census as a young person, by 72, at least by the older standards, you're probably not around anymore. And so that's why we have this big gap in census information, which is why it's a big deal whenever the detailed census comes out. The most recent one being the 1950 census in 1922. I'm sorry, 2022. And so we're just getting that information. But the census contains a wealth of information about local information that can really be useful for doing local history. And it can show you again like where people live, what people are doing, their jobs they have in the community, the physical makeup, like where people are living in terms of black versus white, of ethnicity. You can see communities developing in the census by looking at that kind of information. There's all kinds of information available that you can use to help you understand your community in more granular detail, thanks to the information gathered. It just takes a while to get that information in your hand sometimes because of the 72-year wait period. But anyway, let's go through what the census can offer us. This is not going to be everything. There's a lot to the census, as you can see in the example here. And I want to show you something that, again, thanks to technology, is going to make our lives easier. So looking at some of the specifics about what's really important about the census for us, especially for a class that's working on local history. What we can see besides the names of the people here, everything's kind of arranged in a column, in different columns. We have names, we have addresses, and beyond that, we have much more detailed information that we'll go through. So let's look again at some of the major areas that we're interested in. First and foremost, we zoom in a little bit on this sheet right here, which is from the 1920 census. We look at where this census taker was conducting their work. And if you look at this right here, this word written sideways, you can see that they were on Grant Street in downtown Brunswick. And next to that, if you can get a little closer, you can see the house numbers, the addresses for each of the houses on that street: 1011, 1015, 1113, 1117, and so on. And then going on, we get the names of the people in that household. Normally, the owner or the head of the household is listed first, and then the people who are also living there. And then next to the name, we have the relation of the people who are living in that home. And then we get into the really detailed stuff: the sex of the person, their color or race. Are they white? Are they black? Their age as of their last birthday. So we get to see the demographic information of the home. Are you a citizen? If so, when did you come to the United States? If you're an immigrant, when did you come to the United States? Are you naturalized? Education. Can you read? Can you write? Then we even have, again, stuff that we really want to know more about, moving to the right here: the person, their place of birth, and the language they speak. And then, of course, you can go even deeper. Who was your father? Where were they from? What language did they speak? Same with your mother. Can you speak English? Yes or no? More information over here: your occupation. What do you do for a living? Where do you work? And what industry do you work? And so on and so forth. A lot of this stuff is really good information, again, to help us kind of form an image of what the community looked like at a certain moment in time: who's living there, who they are, where they live, and how they're interacting with each other. Are they living side by side? Are they segregated from each other? These are the kind of things you can find in this census information. Now, where modern technology really helps us here is that in the old days, you would have had to have gone sheet by sheet to find the information that you needed, which, again, depending upon the size of your town, would have taken a long time, most likely, years in some cases, probably. But thank you, modern technology, we're no longer going sheet by sheet because the US Census has made available previous census information data available electronically. And they've made that to the point where it's easily searchable, and more to the point, it's easy to understand what you're looking at on each page. Because if you notice in this example, this person wrote everything in cursive. And sometimes cursive can be very hard to read, especially these days. And especially whenever you're looking at older versions of cursive and on older documents that have faded over time. And sometimes people write with a flourish and so on. It's hard to really make out what they're writing. But because of the new technology that the census is using, as I'll show you in a second, these headaches are sort of a thing of the past. So let's leave this PDF version of an old US Census sheet from 1920 and look at the new digital version. And if you guys didn't know this, like I said, the census is available online. For us at the College of Coastal Georgia, we have access through it through our library. So I'll take you there and show you how to, and walk you through there and show you how to get to the census website. So let's go to the library of the College of Coastal Georgia. There it is. And what you want to do is go to resources, and then you'll look down at Galileo databases and click on this. Some of you are probably familiar with this. This is how you find books, journal articles, and so on. But we're looking for a database in this case. So we want to click at the upper right here, all databases. And then we have a chance to search the databases, the hundreds and hundreds of databases that Galileo has. And in this case, the database we're looking for is ancestry.com. So spell ancestry. Yes, we have access in our college as students to ancestry.com. Search it, and there it is, Ancestry Library Edition. Click on it, and then there we are in Ancestry. Now, we don't really care about the family history search, although I thought about doing that, but we're not going to do it. Instead, we're going to go right to this census information. If you can scroll down a little bit, you see they're really highlighting the 1950 census because that's brand new. But we want to go to Search Census and click on Search Now. And again, we're going to not worry about too much of this stuff. If you're looking for a certain individual person, this is the way to look for them in the US Census. But we're going to scroll down to the data collections. And to keep things simple for us, to match up what I showed you guys on the PDF census page, we're going to look at the 1920 federal census. Now, once we go there, we want to browse the collection, and you'll see that we have an option to search by state. And narrow our search down. I've already searched it once, that's why it's already up there. From Georgia, our county in Georgia we want to search is Glenn. And then we have our different wards. Now, this is a difficult part. It's a little bit easier now because things are digital. But in this case, I already know that I want to search in Ward 1. And then there's districts in that ward that each district was canvassed by a certain census taker. In this case, I want to go to, looking back at the PDF sheet, I'm going to go to Ward 89, District 89, excuse me. And then there are the sheets for that district of Ward 1, 31 total. So unfortunately, you still kind of have to go through them individually to find information. But like I said, that the fact that it's digital is fantastic, because I'm going to bring up the exact page that I had for you. Whoops, wrong one. For the PDF, I'm going to bring it up digitally. And I want to say that was 29. Hold on one second while I do this in my head. Yep, I was right. There we go, 29. Okay, so page 29 of 31. So now I have the digital version of the census page that I showed you guys the PDF version before. Now, what's so different about it? Because it looks exactly the same, right? What's different about it now is that whenever I hover over something, information, it pops up not as cursive, but as print. And I can read it much easier than I could as cursive handwriting. So in this case, when I look at the street over here, and again, I can zoom in just by scrolling my mouse button. It's a little tricky sometimes. I can see Grant Street, and it'll tell me, yes, you were looking at Grant Street. That word is Grant Street. And when I'm looking at a person's name, I'll pop up, hey, there's John Johnson. John Johnson, who was a boarder in this home at 1011 Grant Street with two roomers with him. And we know now that when I switch over here, go to the left or to the right rather, John Johnson, again, looking at the information, the digital version pops up. John Johnson was from Sweden, who, well, spoke Swedish. And he came to the United States in 1916, so he's been here for 4 years at this point in the story. His occupation, he can speak English. His occupation is a carpenter, and he works on an oil refinery. So again, the digital version makes it easier on the eyes anyway to allow you to find the information that you need. Now, again, if you look at this census data and it follows down Grant Street house by house, what you can see is that really Brunswick's kind of in this section of it anyway, very cosmopolitan. We've got a person from Sweden, person from Canada, Germany, Russia, people who speak Yiddish, Hebrew, Spain. We have someone from Spain, Cuba. So that's the beauty of the census, is that we understand now, looking at Grant Street, the makeup of that block, the makeup of that street, part of the street anyway. And we can see it's a very multicultural kind of place where people are living side by side. And we can kind of, if we wanted to go deeper, we could find out the occupations. Maybe all the fishermen are living together. Maybe all the people who work on the ships are living together. That's what we have to find out. And what we can use the census data to help us find out. And one of the other cool things you can do with the census in the digital version is that whenever you come to an address, we'll say 1117 Grant Street in this case, if you click on the person, it'll highlight the entire home. In yellow will be the head of the household, and in the green will be the other people living in that house. In this case, we have a guy named Max Wingrow, who was from, looks like Russia. Yeah, Russia. And Max had his whole family there. Sarah, his wife, Harry, his son, Isaac, his son, and so on and so forth. So that's a really cool feature that can kind of like link the families and households together to make life easier for you and show how things are connected. But that is the U.S. Census. That's how we can access it through Ancestry.com, through our library's database, and how you can use it to find information about local history at the street level, at the block level, to help tell the story of the past.